Every day, in more than 100 countries, the same 5 words rise over rooftops and highways. No app decides when. No committee approves the wording. For more than 1,400 years, the call to prayer has echoed across the world, almost unchanged. But there was a time in Medina when none of it existed, when the Muslims had no way to call people to prayer. After the migration to Medina, prayer became communal. Muslims gathered together 5 times a day, but there was no signal, no summons. People simply guessed the time and hoped others would notice. The Prophet, peace be upon him, wanted the growing Muslim community to have a reliable way to gather for prayer. The companions began suggesting ideas. One suggestion was simple: raise a flag when it was time to pray. Whoever saw it would tell someone else, and the news would spread from person to person. The Prophet, peace be upon him, considered the idea, but set it aside. Another suggestion was to use a horn, loud enough to be heard across the settlement. However, this resembled the practice of the Jewish community. The Prophet, peace be upon him, did not wish for the Muslim call to prayer to imitate the traditions of other communities, so this idea was also left aside. Then someone suggested using a bell, similar to the way Christians gathered their congregations. Again, the Prophet, peace be upon him, declined. Some historical reports also mention using fire as a signal, though this narration is less firmly established than the others. The question remained unanswered. How would Muslims know it was time to gather for prayer? That night, a companion named Abdullah ibn Zayd had a remarkable dream. He saw a man carrying a bell. Thinking it could solve the community's problem, Abdullah asked if he could buy it. But instead of selling the bell, the man offered him something better. He began teaching him words, line by line, the words of the Adhan. When morning arrived, Abdullah hurried to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and described everything he had seen. The Prophet, peace be upon him, listened carefully and said that it was a true dream, if Allah willed. Then he gave a simple instruction: teach these words to Bilal, because Bilal's voice was stronger and carried farther. Although the words came through Abdullah's dream, it would be Bilal's voice that carried them into the streets of Medina. Abdullah was then instructed to recite the Iqamah, the second call made just before the prayer begins. But the story did not end there. Umar ibn al-Khattab later revealed that he had seen the very same dream. For nearly 20 days, he had kept it to himself. When asked why, Umar explained that Abdullah had already shared the dream first, so he felt there was nothing left to add. Then came the moment that changed Islamic history. Bilal stood and called the Adhan aloud for the very first time. As the words echoed through Medina, Umar rushed from his home and declared, "By the one who sent you with the truth, I saw exactly what he saw." The Prophet, peace be upon him, simply replied, "To Allah belongs all praise." Why was Bilal chosen? The narrations give a clear answer. His voice was louder and carried farther than Abdullah's. Some reports also mention that Abdullah may have been unwell that day. This took place during the first year after the Hijrah, while the Muslim community in Medina was still establishing its foundations. One important point deserves clarification. The Adhan did not come through Quranic revelation. Rather, it came through a true dream that was confirmed by the Prophet, peace be upon him. Classical scholars carefully distinguish between these two. The fullest narration of this story is found primarily in Sunan Abi Dawud, with supporting narrations in Jami' at-Tirmidhi and Sunan Ibn Majah. Different details come from different authentic reports that scholars later brought together to present the complete story. From a rejected flag, a rejected horn, a rejected bell, and 2 matching dreams, came a call that continues to echo across the world today, 5 times every day, calling millions of believers to stand before their Lord. If you enjoyed this story and would like to discover the history behind more moments that shaped Islam, subscribe to Naats World, where we tell one authentic story at a time.